Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload, we'll be talking about several storm systems, but mainly the one that's going on right now across the upper Midwest and just the Great Lakes area, and also the potential very large system into this upcoming weekend and beginning portion of next week. I'm sure you've probably heard a lot about it. Potentially some extremely heavy snow for some and very heavy rainfall for other areas. So a lot of stuff to talk about. If you guys like these videos, before we get into this, and you find yourself liking them, watching them, consider subscribing if you haven't. If you are new, completely new, check out the channel, check out the content, and see if it's something you'd like. Hitting the thumbs up button also helps out. Any comments or concerns, leave them down below. I usually get to most comments, if not all of them. Alright, so I want to start off, as you already saw, I'm on the Snowfall report map from the last 24 hours. So you recall that there was supposed to be a swath of snow, or at least across the South Dakota area. It's still going on and really just cranking up across Minnesota. But notice that there were some decent amounts, to say the least, interior South Dakota, the city, not area. 12 inches of snow, so a foot of snow. It did vary quite a bit. Look at that. We have a 3-inch report there from 142. And look at that, 145, 6 to 8 inches. That's rather remarkable, the difference right there. Definitely, though, some strong winds, so maybe some of the measuring is a bit off, inaccurate in some locations. Notice that in the mountains just west of Denver, there were some pretty decent amounts of snow as well. So definitely something that was welcomed, as they haven't been seeing a whole lot of snow there. Okay, and we are starting to see the reports come in right there. You can see 6 p.m., 5 inches in South Dakota, half an inch Fergus Falls, Minnesota, and 1.4 inches at 4:20 p.m. And that is what is going on right now. And let me zoom out onto the radar. Sorry about that. Look at this. This is what we have. You can see it's a pretty big system. It's definitely not anything comparable to what we could be seeing this upcoming weekend, as that one will just be absolutely profound in terms of size. But notice what we have going on here, right? So it's decent for sure. So let me try playing this radar for you. It's a bit frozen right now. This encapsulates 6 hours of radar data, so sometimes it takes a bit longer to load. But I mean, you can see that it overall is a decent system, a bit less organized than you would typically want if you wanted like huge amounts of snow or rain, because it's quick moving and it's relatively slanted. You can see it's a pretty it's almost at a kind of horizontal diagonal line, and it's just very quick moving. You can see the vertice, the low pressure is right there, and that would right there, see right there, vortex right there, and anything behind that is spinning to the counterclockwise, right, and anything out ahead of it is spinning clockwise, and that's where the cold front is, which is just starting to get its act together. A lot of rain very far to the north, but look at some of these snowfall. Look, I just always find it fascinating to see these showers just move into the rain and then transition over to snow. And you can see that's definitely happening. Snowfall rates are extremely heavy right now across the arrowhead of Minnesota, just north of Duluth. They're kind of seeing a rain-snow mix right now. Notice, right, Marquette seeing rain at the UP. It's all rain, very nice warm temperatures. Sault Ste. Marie, same deal. Thunder Bay getting that snow, and you could get quite a bit out of this. Look at that, what happened across Minneapolis. Some thunderstorm activity, and then usually you'd see a very strong cold front with, you know, a relatively powerful system, but in this case the system has its low pressure right around right there, and it's not as visible on this still image as it was when I was playing forward, but basically it's just shooting really far ahead. Right? It's just refreshed. I hate when it does that. It does like an auto refresh, and that deletes pretty much the image that we were on. But the point is that this low pressure, which is now we have the watches and warnings up. Okay, so this low pressure that is centered right here shoots kind of to the north and east instead of going to the north or to the west. So that it kind of like keeps colliding in with the moisture that it outproduced out in front of it. Right, it's very quick. It's very quick moving. So this cold front kind of struggles keeping up with it. And if this was more, say, slow moving, the cold front could have been more massive, right? It's just, there are some powerful thunderstorms, but it's kind of going to get dragged out and eventually end up in a position like this and start disrupting itself, basically falling apart. And if you're having trouble seeing that, I'll show you that on the herd model, which is our next 18-hour forecast. Relatively good model, the best model in my opinion for such short range details. So notice there's our system, does a fairly good job of pinpointing that. We do have that cold front you can see develop, it's already there, and we have that low pressure, which is right across there according to this model run. And notice that we do have quite a bit of snow, right? Quite a bit of rain on the obviously on the warm side. Look at that, quite some of a heavy and also strong winds with that heavy snow, strong winds. And look at this cold front. You can see that it's there. It's very weak, and it starts falling apart as this low pressure just gets way far to the north in order for this to kind of sustain itself. And it just shoots these little showers, bands of rain. And with this vortex spinning right now off of California, or vortex, right, this moves on to the southwest, and there's remaining moisture. This cold front starts combining with that. And that's where we start seeing some very potentially dangerous situation going on. Dangerous because the heavy snow might be so heavy that it's something you wouldn't want, right? Even if you would want heavy snow, it's extremely heavy. It's potentially crippling. Right there you can see a lot of precip, rain, snow across California, and that's our system that we have to watch for. Obviously, this one's our priority concern, and in terms of that total snowfall, you can see pretty decent, up to I would say over a foot across some of the isolated areas across the Arrowhead. I wouldn't exclude that, but I generally 6 to 12 inches. Probably closer to 8 to 12 is pretty likely there. And not much additional across South Dakota, North Dakota, maybe just extreme corner of southeastern North Dakota. And if you were to look at the total accumulated precipitation, which is the rain, you can see, I'm sorry about that, some rain will be falling with that cold front. Not anything significant though, unless you get under one of these downpours, which could dump a bit of rain. This is what the map looks like. Notice, right, we do have a tornado watch. Again, for being such a small cold front, it's early in its development stages, and it really won't be that long lasting. But these little cells, especially those right here, can pick up on some rotation, as we have very strong southerly winds, right? Very strong gustily northwest winds on the backside. That causes rotation, change in winds as you go up aloft. That's just one of the many elements. But in this case, it's pretty strong and present. You can see it went through Des Moines as it intensified. Now it's heading towards Cedar Rapids. Again, it doesn't look to be a major severe threat, but definitely more of like a heavy rain, small hail, gusty wind type. And National Weather Service, you can see the tornado watch right there, right? They're tracking these. Again, possibly some of them could be severe. As it gets towards the Mississippi, there probably will be some sort of a weakening trend with the severity. Maybe it just turns into more of a rain event. So for those in Chicago, probably expecting just some rain. Look at that, the winter storm warnings, which are issued right there. Look at that. Tornado watches are just extending almost into Minneapolis, so that's pretty impressive. Look at the radar. Look at the radar. How these systems, how these storms kind of have developed. Let's see if this loads. It's taking a bit while to load. You can see that some of those are pretty powerful. They have those bright colors, and yeah, it's taking a bit too long. But basically, what it's showing is how many erupted, right? And there could be probably more additional thunderstorms with heavy rain that pass through. Okay, let's take a look at the large models now, right? So we got that system out of the way, and let's start taking a glance at that big system everyone was talking about. So here's our first system, moves away, you can see into Canada, becomes more of a wind whipped system and kind of falls apart. Not really a massive one. But notice the cold front that it stalls out. Look at that. That cold front could be at one point, almost like 1,000 miles plus. So definitely impressive. But sticks and combines with this low pressure that is right now off California and pushes on to the west, and look, lots of rain. That's a concern across Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas. That's one of the concerns, and across Kansas. But look what happens on the snowy side into Colorado, right? We see snow, and while this isn't anything unusual, this is Saturday around noon, and as we push this forward, this low pressure intensifies into some rather ridiculous snowfall rates. I wouldn't say, a record breaking or anything like that, but 2 to 3 inches of snow per hour, which is heavy. But the deal is, look how long this could sit around. And there's still a lot of model disagreement. Let me tell you that. A lot of model disagreement. But look at this, right? So at this point, we have a very strong cold front, unlike with that first system that we have right now, because this low pressure is more north-south based. It's not as quick moving, so this could really catch up and start producing quite a bit of moisture. You can see pumping in loads and loads of that precipitation. And look at that. I mean, this thing across the panhandle of Nebraska, South Dakota, Wyoming just sits for several days, dumping very heavy snow, and before it finally moves out. While you would expect it to move out and start maybe re-strengthening, it's going to be on a weakening phase. While it's being said, still a very powerful cold front that begins to start kind of lifting to the north and become really almost horizontally on a horizontal axis, especially to the north. So that will again prolong the snowfall amounts and or prolong the snowfall kind of time across Nebraska and South Dakota. And again, the exact track and timing of this is still a bit fuzzy as this is 100 hours out, but it's gonna probably occur in some sort of fashion that I'm showing you right here. Notice right there's a cold front. Snow pushes into Iowa, right? This low pressure is pretty weak for having such a large area of precipitation. It will be stronger kind of by the Colorado area. Notice, right? Some rain and some snow push into Illinois, potentially Indiana. So, even the further south locations that we'll be seeing some thunderstorms today. Where the tornado watches, right? You can see some, where the tornado watches today, see some snow with this system on Monday. And then as we push this out, we see more activity, right? You may be thinking, oh, after that system, it's all done. Bit of a break, maybe for 24, 48 hours before a new one comes up. Probably more of a rainmaker, but definitely still something to watch for. And yeah, so you guys are looking or probably wanting to see the snowfall amounts. Again, this is just one model, so don't think that this is all set in stone. It probably won't be up until maybe a day before the system or two. So there's our first event. Again, if you recall, the models were hinting towards heavy amounts of snow, and they were right. The National Weather Service was conservative with that, and it turned out being more of an aggressive system. Right, we saw a foot of snow in South Dakota. That was quite an overproducer. Look at that. This could with the look at that. That's just ridiculous. Even into Iowa, we could have some heavy snowfall rates or amounts. Sioux Falls, Sioux City area, right? But look at that. For the Panhandle of Nebraska, this could be an absolutely crippling event. This could shift a bit further to the south, and North Platte could get well over a foot. Right now, they're kind of on a cusp. Or look at that. Some of these amounts, again, 45, 40, right there, 27. Some models show over 60 inches for some of these locations. Some of them bring it further to the south. So just something that could be crippling and definitely not good news, especially at this time of the year where it'll probably be met with rain just a few days after with another system. So that's a European, a relatively good and reasonable model. It tends not to overhype things. The GFS usually goes a bit aggressive, but honestly, it has been, especially its parallel version, has done a pretty good job this year. Look at this, right? Look at the model. Look at this. It shows that snow a bit further to the north as it slides out towards the east, right? Into northern Iowa, southern Minnesota, and into Illinois, and into southern Wisconsin. Look at that. Chicago potentially picking up several inches of snow after those warm days we've had. Even into Iowa, right? Southern Minnesota, South Dakota. But look what it shows there. Some of these amounts approaching 70, 80 inches plus, and some of these amounts may not even be falling in like the mountainous areas, more of like the plains. That is just a ridiculous snowstorm right there, and hopefully it does not happen because that would be a crippling event. Right, and in the long range, you can see that the snow chances do continue, especially further towards the north. And in terms of rain, as I mentioned, that the rain threat will be significant. I forgot to show you the rain amounts that the Europeans showed, but generally the GFS is kind of on the same line with that. So good amounts, right, with this first event, but look what happens. Very heavy rain, especially towards the St. Louis, southern Missouri area. Obviously, where that heavy snowfall, so quite a bit of precip, and in the future, more events come through. Definitely not a quiet pattern. I want to jump back to the European and show you how much rain this one shows, and you can see also some pretty good events, and some of these areas have had already seen pretty wet conditions, like the Missouri area, the Illinois, southern Illinois area. It's just a bit north of the Kentucky, Tennessee area where they got absolutely dumped on, so that's good news for sure. But again, you can see the pattern does not slow down and remains active. GFS parallel, very good model in my opinion. Equally as good as a European, if not slightly better this year. So probably some people wouldn't agree, but notice right there is that rain situation equally as strong, as potent as a European and GFS. And the pattern remains very active, especially with this model. You can see widespread 4 or 5 inches plus, which it would be a lot for sure, to say the least. But let's take a look at that snowfall. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering how much this model shows. If again, I think this model does a pretty good job. See right there, that might be a bit overdone with that, with those widespread foot plus amounts. I think that will be closer to 8 across these locations. But regardless, I think it did a better job than the European with this first system. So let's see what it does with that second system. Look at that, brings snow all the way to potentially the mid-Atlantic with this, as it kind of glides to the south and east Illinois, potentially several inches, quite a bit. And then, of course, Nebraska and Colorado take the cake with well over 30 to 40 inches of snowfall. And yesterday, by the way, I just want to show you how much these models have changed. This was the parallel from yesterday in the evening, so exactly 24 hours ago. And you can see this is what it showed. So a big system, yes, and some very strong amounts of 60 inches potentially in Nebraska, which, gee, God, that would be just a massive amount. And you can see that it kind of shifted it further to the north yesterday, or it wanted to bring it further to the north, and today it has shifted it to the south. Not as much excitement towards the north, so definitely some changes, but it's been there for several days now, the hinting of that system. And models like high-res models, right, they're just starting to pick up on this system. It's really right out of their reach of 84 hours. One model I forgot to show you is a Canadian, GDPS. Decent model, realistic with these snowfall amounts today, and let's see what it shows. You can see right there, boom. A bit more of a southern track than, say, the GFS Parallel or GFS, more of what the Euro shows. But, those amounts that it shows right there are hopefully, a glitch. Obviously, they're not, but I wouldn't say, it would be hard to see the National Weather Service predict 64 inches plus across these locations. I don't think so, but definitely an event over 3 to 4 feet is possible here, especially for the duration it will be occurring at. Denver could see up to 24 inches, so a large event, and you can see that it does kind of keep actives, or an active pattern with some snow maybe even occurring across the Northeast. So definitely a lot of excitement in the weather community. No signs of slowing down, right? And I'll be just watching these snowfall reports come in tonight, and especially once that system sets up across the Colorado area, that will be interesting to see what the snowfall amounts cap out at. With a system as big as this one that we're gonna be tracking, I want to look at the ensembles. So let's take a look at the Midwest region, where a lot of the stuff will be occurring, and let's take a look at the GFS models. So GFS family. Let's see if I can zoom this in a bit more. Might actually help. You can see right there. Right. So notice this is our first system. You can see some differences even for this system already occurring. That's a lighter scenario. That's a heavier scenario. And it probably will be something more of like the heavier scenario. So, but again, we can't just make an assumption which model will be more accurate based off how they predicted this first system. Maybe some, but again, each model kind of does a bit worse for different systems. And notice that a lot of them do dump that very heavy snow, over 3 feet across Colorado, Nebraska, South Dakota. Some of them extend a bit further towards the north into South Dakota, almost North Dakota, while some into Nebraska and just slide it through. You could see kind of like what the GFS models were doing. And there we go. Let's just run through this whole system into Tuesday, Wednesday. You can see some bring it into Iowa. Some really bring it into northern Iowa, not so much central or southern Iowa. So some differences, but definitely confidence that a large area of very heavy snow across northeastern Colorado, southern Wyoming, and into western Nebraska. And just to show you in the very long term, as far as this model goes out to, which probably, okay, yeah, it's fully loaded. You can see that the snow chances pile on, and each model shows different scenarios as the confidence is low, usually in the spring with these snowstorms, as with this one we have going on. But look at that. Look at that model right there. Bullseyeing very heavy snow across Nebraska with this March active pattern. So that's the GFS. I could show you the European ensembles. Unfortunately, they don't have as nice of a view as the GFS ones. We could just look at the 15-day snowfall and run it through model by model, and you can see what that one shows. Focus on this. This is probably just like very far out and probably some sort of, thing that will change very quickly, but focus on that swath. You can see this one centers it further to the north than this one, which is further to the south, maybe across more Denver, the Colorado area. Look at that one. It shows pretty heavy snow to North Carolina and into Virginia. Some you can see kind of limited to the mountain or the kind of the Colorado, Wyoming areas. Others don't. I mean, look at that. A lot of them showing over 40, potentially 50, 60 inches, as weird as it sounds to say. You could see some pushing into Minnesota with that heavy snow. Some maybe into even cities like Chicago, right? There's another one that favors kind of the Minnesota area. Look at that one into Chicago, northern Illinois. A lot of different scenarios possible, definitely. And you can see they just continue. They continue to disagree. And look at this. We have one model that shows its system just after sitting a bit across the Colorado-Nebraska area, just shooting towards the north with some very heavy snow into North Dakota. Well, that's not really supported. Look at that one. Very heavy snow to South Dakota, while, there's some that show it barely reaching into South Dakota with that heavy snow. Look at that one. More across the Minnesota area. There it is. A lot of differences, and in a long range, as you could see, some models even show some snow across the Northeast, as I'm sure you saw with a few models like this one. Some are a bit even more excited like that, so definitely something to watch for. Alright, so that's basically it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.